The unstoppable Dominion. The Xylar Dominion's warships emerged from hyperspace like metallic predators, their obsidian hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. The defensive fleet of Alteris Prime, once considered the mightiest armada in the Orion Spur, scattered before them like leaves in a hurricane. Admiral Kidrax of the Altarian Defense Force watched in horror as his flagship's sensors registered the impossible energy readings from the Xylar vessels. Evasive maneuvers. All ships disengage and retreat to secondary defensive positions. His orders came too late. The Xylar's primary weapons, matter disruption beams that operated on principles no other species had mastered, lanced through space, bypassing shields and armor as if they weren't there. 3 Altarian dreadnoughts disintegrated simultaneously, their atoms scattered across the void. The battle for Alteris Prime lasted less than 14 minutes. When the Altarian Chancellor transmitted the formal surrender, it marked the 23rd planetary system to fall to the Xylar Dominion in less than 2 standard years. A ripple of dread spread through the remaining independent worlds of the galaxy. The Dominion was unstoppable, their technology centuries beyond even the most advanced civilizations. On the flagship of the Xylar fleet, Supreme Commander Xaldar observed the conquered world through compound eyes that registered spectrums beyond what most species could perceive. His exoskeleton clicked softly as he addressed his second-in-command. "How many ships did we lose, Sub-Commander?" "None, Supreme Commander. 3 sustained minor damage, but all remain combat-capable." Xaldar's mandibles flexed in what passed for satisfaction among his kind. As expected, these primitives never learn. Their weapons are ineffective against our phase-shifted hulls. The next target, Supreme Commander. The Proxima system. It's a minor colony, but strategically located. After that, we move against the Centauri Alliance. Once they fall, there will be no organized resistance left in this sector of the galaxy. Sub-Commander Velkur hesitated, his antennae twitching. "What about the humans, Supreme Commander?" Xaldar's compound eyes flashed with momentary irritation. "The humans? They're an insignificant species confined to a single star system. Their technology is primitive, and they've remained isolated from galactic affairs for decades. Our intelligence suggests they've been developing unusual technologies, Supreme Commander, and they've declined all diplomatic contact with both us and the Galactic Alliance. Irrelevant. Once we've secured the major systems, they'll surrender without a fight, like all the others. They're no threat to the Dominion." On Earth, in the underground chambers of the United Terra Defense Council, a very different conversation was taking place. Fleet Admiral Helena Chen stood before the assembled representatives of humanity's unified government, her weathered face illuminated by the holographic display of recent Xylar conquests. "Alteris Prime has fallen," she announced grimly. "The Xylar fleets are now less than 30 light-years from Sol. The Galactic Alliance has formally requested our intervention." Councillor Rodriguez snorted derisively. "The same Galactic Alliance that refused our membership application 50 years ago. That told us our primitive species had nothing to contribute to their enlightened civilization." "The same," Chen agreed. "But their desperation benefits us now. They've offered full Alliance membership and unrestricted trading rights in exchange for our assistance." "What exactly do they expect us to do?" asked Councillor Yamamoto. "The combined fleets of 23 advanced civilizations couldn't stop the Xylar. What difference would our ships make?" Admiral Chen's lips curved into a tight smile. "They don't know about the Defiance Project." The chamber fell silent. For 15 years, Earth had poured its resources into developing the TCS Defiance, a warship unlike any other in the galaxy. While the rest of the civilized worlds had focused on incremental improvements to existing technologies, humanity had taken a fundamentally different approach, exploring scientific principles that other species had dismissed as impractical or impossible. "Is it ready?" President Okonkwo finally asked. "As ready as it will ever be. The prototype has passed all simulations. Combat deployment is the next logical step, and you believe one ship can make a difference against the Xylar fleets. Chen's expression hardened. One ship like the Defiance? Absolutely. We've developed technologies that Xylar have never encountered and can't anticipate. But more importantly, we understand something the other species don't. And what's that? Admiral, that war isn't just about technology. It's about creativity, adaptability, and the willingness to take risks. That Xylar have become complacent in their superiority. They've forgotten what it's like to face a real challenge. Her eyes gleamed with fierce determination. We're about to remind them. 24 hours later, Captain Marcus Riley stood on the bridge of the TCS Defiance as the massive vessel prepared to depart from the lunar shipyards. At 38, Riley was relatively young for such a command, but his tactical brilliance and unorthodox thinking had made him the unanimous choice to lead humanity's most advanced warship. The Defiance bore little resemblance to conventional warships. Its hull was a deep matte gray with flowing, almost organic lines that disguised its true size and capabilities. The exotic materials comprising its structure had been developed specifically to counteract the Xylar's matter disruption technology. All systems operational, Captain, reported Commander Sophia Durrani, his executive officer. Quantum drive is primed and stable. Weapon systems are green across the board. Riley nodded, his eyes on the main view screen where Earth hung like a blue jewel against the blackness of space. Communications, transmit our status to Fleet Command. Fleet Command acknowledges, Captain, replied Lieutenant Park from the communication station. Admiral Chen sends her regards and reminds you that the fate of 2 species now rests on our success. Only 2. Riley allowed himself a brief smile. She's getting optimistic in her old age. His attempt at humor drew nervous laughter from the bridge crew. Everyone understood what was at stake. If the Defiance failed, Earth would be the Xylar's next conquest. Captain, Durrani said quietly, incoming transmission from the Galactic Alliance representative. They're requesting to speak with you before we depart. Riley sighed. Put them through. The view screen shifted to show Ambassador Trelvan of the Centauri Alliance, his elongated features arranged in what humans had learned was an expression of extreme anxiety. Captain Riley, on behalf of the Alliance Council, I wish to express our gratitude for Earth's intervention in this crisis. Say your gratitude, Ambassador. We're not doing this for the Alliance. The alien blinked his 3 eyes in confusion. I don't understand. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do. Because someone needs to stand up to bullies, even technologically superior ones. The Alliance's opinion of humanity has been clear for half a century. We don't need your approval now. Of course, the ambassador said hastily. Nevertheless, our sensor data on the Xylar fleet has been transmitted to your ship. Their next target appears to be the Proxima colony. Acknowledged. We'll intercept them there. Captain. The ambassador hesitated. The Alliance Council wishes me to inquire about the nature of your vessel's capabilities. Your government has been secretive about your technological developments. Riley's expression remained neutral. That information is classified, Ambassador. You'll have your answer when we engage the Xylar. After the transmission ended, Riley turned to his crew. Helm, set course for the Proxima system. Maximum speed. Tactical, begin final weapons checks. Communications, transmit encrypted status updates to Fleet Command only. As the Defiance's revolutionary quantum drive engaged, folding space in ways no other species had mastered, Riley addressed his crew over the ship-wide comm system. This is the captain speaking. In a few hours, we will engage an enemy that believes itself invincible. The Xylar Dominion has never known defeat. They've never faced an adversary that could challenge their technological superiority. He paused, his voice dropping to a more intimate tone. But they've never faced humanity before. They don't understand what makes us different. Our creativity, our adaptability, our sheer stubborn refusal to accept defeat. The Defiance accelerated beyond conventional physics, its passage barely registering on the sensor networks of other species, as they hurtled toward what would become the most significant battle in the galaxy's recent history. Riley finished his address with quiet confidence. The Sealer believe they are the apex predators of the galaxy. Today, we're going to show them they're wrong. First contact, first blood. The Proxima system lay at the edge of what humans once considered their cosmic neighborhood. Its single habitable world, Proxima Centauri, hosted a mixed colony of various species from the Galactic Alliance, a trading outpost that had grown into a thriving settlement of nearly 3 million souls. As the TCS Defiance dropped out of quantum space at the system's edge, the ship's advanced sensors immediately detected the Xylar invasion fleet. 27 Sealar warships had surrounded the colony world, their matter disruption beams systematically destroying the planet's orbital defenses. On the Defiance's bridge, the tactical display showed the ongoing massacre with clinical precision. Lieutenant Commander Natasha Volkov, the ship's tactical officer, assessed the situation with grim efficiency. They've already destroyed the orbital stations, Captain. Planetary shields are failing. Ground invasion will likely commence within the hour. Captain Riley studied the Xylar fleet formation. Like most species that had achieved overwhelming technological superiority, the Sealar had become tactically complacent. Their ships maintained a standard siege pattern with minimal point defense coverage. They simply didn't expect any meaningful resistance. They haven't detected us yet, Riley noted. The Defiance's quantum signature dampening system was functioning perfectly, rendering the ship virtually invisible to conventional sensors. Status of our displacement field. Fully charged and ready, Captain, responded Chief Engineer Dr. Hiroshi Tanaka from the engineering section. Theoretical models suggest it will completely neutralize their matter disruption technology, but without live testing. He left the implications hanging. Well, we're about to get that live test, Doctor. Riley turned to his executive officer. Commander Durrani, battle stations. All hands to combat positions. Throughout the massive vessel, warning klaxons sounded as the crew of 300 prepared for humanity's first engagement with its Sealar dominion. Unlike the fleets of other species, which often required thousands of crew members, the Defiance employed extensive automation and artificial intelligence systems to maintain combat efficiency with minimal personnel. Weapons status? Riley asked. Gravitational focus arrays at full power, Volkov reported. Relativistic missile batteries loaded and targeting systems online. Kinetic impactors primed. Riley nodded and activated the ship-wide comm. All hands, this is the captain. We are about to engage the enemy. We'll have the element of surprise for approximately 30 seconds before they adjust to our presence. Make those seconds count. He settled back into his command chair. Helm, plot an insertion course that brings us within optimal weapons range of their command vessel. Execute on my mark. Lieutenant Ramon Diaz, the helmsman, acknowledged the order with steady professionalism, his fingers dancing across the control interfaces as he calculated the perfect attack vector. Course plotted, Captain. Quantum drive standing by. Disengage stealth systems on arrival. I want them to see us coming. Riley's eyes narrowed as he gave the command that would change the course of the galactic conflict. Mark. The Defiance's quantum drive engaged one final time, folding space in a maneuver that was equal parts science and artistry. The massive warship materialized directly within the Xylar formation, less than 10,000 kilometers from their command vessel, point-blank range by space combat standards. On the Xylar flagship, Supreme Commander Xaldar was receiving the surrender terms from Proxima's colonial governor when alarms suddenly blared across his bridge. Unknown vessel. His sensor officer chittered in alarm. Materialized inside our formation. Configuration unknown. Energy signature unprecedented. Xaldar's compound eyes widened as the tactical display showed a vessel unlike any he had encountered in his centuries of warfare. Impossible. No ship can penetrate our sensor grid undetected. It's transmitting, Supreme Commander, the communications officer reported. The message that appeared on the Xylar command screens was brief and direct. Xylar Dominion Forces. This is Captain Marcy U.S. Riley of the Terran Confederation, shipped HFY. Withdraw from this system, immediately, or be destroyed. UAV 30 way CCO Indias to Sion Pili. Zeldar's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. A single ship dares to threaten the Dominion fleet. Target that vessel and eliminate it. Standard dispersal pattern. As the Xylar weapons officers complied, targeting the mysterious human ship with their matter disruption beams, Zaldar felt a moment of curiosity. Who were these humans to challenge the Dominion so boldly? His curiosity turned to shock as the disruption beams struck the human vessel and simply vanished, absorbed by a shimmering field that momentarily outlined the ship's hull before fading. Impossible, Zaldar hissed. Intensify the beams. All ships, concentrate fire. Aboard the Defiance, Riley watched calmly as the enemy's primary weapons proved completely ineffective against the displacement field developed by Earth's scientists. Displacement field holding at 98%, Captain, reported Dr. Tanaka from engineering, unable to keep the note of triumph from his voice. Their weapons are ineffective. Riley allowed himself a brief smile. Their 30 seconds are up. Commander Volkov, you may fire when ready. Target their engines and weapon systems. I want to disable, not destroy. Aye, Captain. Targeting solution locked. Volkov's fingers activated the ship's primary weapon system, the gravitational focus array. Unlike conventional energy weapons, the GFA created localized distortions in space-time itself, generating crushing gravitational forces at the targeted points. Against the rigid crystalline structure of Xylar technology, the effect was devastating. 3 beams of distorted space lanced out from the Defiance, each striking a different Xylar vessel. Where the beams touched, the alien ship's hulls crumpled inward as if crushed by an invisible fist. Their propulsion systems imploded and weapons arrays collapsed into twisted wreckage. Direct hits on all targets, Volkov reported. Enemy vessels disabled. The remaining Xylar ships reacted with frantic haste, breaking formation and maneuvering to surround the Terran intruder. Their secondary weapons, particle cannons, and plasma projectors, opened fire in a desperate attempt to overcome whatever protection shielded the human vessel. They're adapting, Durrani observed as the tactical display showed the Xylar fleet's maneuvers. Encirclement pattern. Riley nodded. As expected, let them think they're boxing us in. Helm. Execute maneuver Delta 7. Lieutenant Diaz grinned as he activated the Defiance's revolutionary propulsion system. Unlike the inertial drives used by other species, the Defiance employed a localized space-folding technique that allowed for instantaneous changes in position and vector, essentially short-range teleportation. The ship vanished from the center of the forming Xylar encirclement and reappeared behind their lines, now positioned to rake their formation from an unexpected angle. Relativistic missile batteries. Fire, Riley ordered. The Defiance launched a spread of 12 missiles, each accelerated to near-light speed by the ship's mass drivers. At such velocities, the missiles carried kinetic energy equivalent to small nuclear devices. They struck 6 Xylar ships before defensive systems could react, the impacts transforming the proud warships into expanding clouds of superheated plasma and debris. On his flagship, Supreme Commander Xaldar watched in growing horror as his invincible fleet was systematically dismantled by a single enemy vessel. The humans were employing technologies and tactics that Xylar had never encountered, weapons that ignored their defenses, propulsion systems that defied known physics. Order all ships to regroup, he commanded, his voice tight with rage and disbelief. Adjust shield harmonics to counter their weapons. Supreme Commander, his second-in-command ventured, perhaps we should withdraw and reassess this technology. Retreat, before a single ship. Zaldar's exoskeleton rattled with fury. Never. The Dominion does not retreat. As if in answer to his defiance, the human ship executed another impossible maneuver, vanishing and reappearing directly above the Xylar flagship. A precise gravitational beam struck the flagship's primary communications array, crushing it instantly and severing Zaldar's connection to the rest of his fleet. Riley's voice came through on emergency frequencies, addressing the Xylar commander directly. Supreme Commander Zaldar, your fleet is in disarray. 7 of your ships have been destroyed, 11 disabled. You cannot win this engagement. Withdraw now, or we will be forced to eliminate your remaining vessels. Zaldar's compound eyes flashed with hatred as he addressed his bridge crew. Prepare for emergency hyperspace jump. Target the humans' homeworld, Earth. We will return with the entire Dominion fleet and reduce their planet to atoms. Before he could give the command to execute, another precision strike from the Defiance severed the flagship's primary power conduits. Emergency systems activated, but the damage was done. The Xylar vessel was crippled, unable to flee or fight. Aboard the Defiance, Riley received the report of their successful strike with satisfaction. Status of the remaining Xylar vessels. 8 are attempting to retreat, Captain Volkov reported. The others are disabled or maintaining position. Allow the retreating ships to leave, Riley ordered. We want survivors to report what happened here. Commander Durrani raised an eyebrow. Psychological warfare, Captain. Exactly. The Xylar need to understand that they're no longer unopposed. Riley stood from his command chair. Lieutenant Park, open a channel to the Proxima colony. The colony governor's astonished face appeared on the view screen moments later. Captain, I don't know how to thank you. You've saved millions of lives today. The Terran Confederation stands with all free worlds against aggression. Riley responded formally. We'll remain in system until Alliance reinforcements arrive. After the communication ended, Riley addressed his senior officers. This was only the first engagement. The Xylar will return in greater numbers once they've analyzed our capabilities. They'll adapt their tactics, Durrani noted. Try to counter our technology. Of course, Riley agreed. But that's where humanity has the advantage. We don't just adapt, we innovate. He gestured to the tactical display, where the remaining Xylar ships were being secured by the Defiance's tractor systems. Commander Volkov, I want detailed scans of their vessels. Dr. Tanaka, prepare boarding teams. Let's see what we can learn about our enemy. As the Defiance's crew carry out their orders, the news of humanity's victory spread through subspace communications at faster-than-light speeds. On dozens of worlds, oppressed by the Xylar or fearful of their approach, beings of all species looked toward the Earth system with newfound hope. The unstoppable Dominion had finally been challenged, and for the first time, they had been defeated. Humanity's stand. Word of the Defiance's victory at Proxima spread through the galaxy with breathtaking speed. Encrypted transmissions, smuggled recordings, and eyewitness accounts painted a picture that most species found difficult to believe. A single human warship had engaged and defeated a Xylar battle group. The seemingly invincible conquerors had been humbled by a species many had dismissed as primitive and insignificant. For Supreme Overlord Zextral, ruler of the Xylar Dominion, the news was received with cold fury. In the grand chamber of the Dominion's throne world, he addressed the gathered war council, his massive exoskeleton towering over even the highest-ranking commanders. How? He demanded, his voice reverberating through the crystalline chamber. How did a minor species from an insignificant system develop technologies that counteract our most advanced weapons? Supreme Commander Xaldar, recently returned from his humiliating defeat, knelt before his ruler. The humans have pursued scientific paths that our experts dismissed as theoretically impossible, Overlord. Their displacement field negates our matter disruption technology. Their propulsion systems operate on principles we've never encountered. And you allowed them to capture 4 of our warships intact, Zextral hissed, his compound eyes flashing with barely contained rage. There was no choice, Overlord. The alternative was total destruction. The Supreme Overlord clicked his mandibles contemplatively. Perhaps this defeat serves a purpose. For too long, the Dominion has grown complacent in its superiority. This human challenge will reinvigorate our warriors' fighting spirit. His gaze swept the assembled commanders. Prepare the Grand Armée, every available warship. We will crush this human resistance and then eradicate their homeworld as an example to all who would defy the Dominion. As the sailor prepared their counterstrike, the crew of the TCS Defiance had not been idle. For 2 weeks, they had studied the captured sailor vessels, learning about their enemies' technologies and weaknesses. Working alongside scientists and engineers from Proxima colony, they had made several crucial discoveries. Captain Riley stood in the Defiance's conference room, surrounded by his senior officers and several Alliance representatives. The holographic display showed detailed schematics of sailor physiology and technology. Their crystalline neural networks are remarkably efficient, Dr. Tanaka explained, highlighting a complex structure in the display. But they're also vulnerable to specific electromagnetic frequencies. A properly calibrated pulse could temporarily disrupt their ship-wide systems without causing permanent damage. Ambassador Trelvan of the Centauri Alliance leaned forward, his 3 eyes blinking in surprise. You're developing non-lethal weapons against the Xelar. After what they've done to dozens of worlds. Riley met the alien's gaze steadily. We're developing options, Ambassador. Unlike the Xylar, we don't believe in unnecessary destruction. Commander Durrani directed their attention to another section of the display. We've also identified a critical weakness in their fleet coordination. The Xylar rely heavily on their command ship's quantum entanglement communicators. If we can isolate their flagship from the rest of the fleet, their tactical efficiency drops significantly. This is all fascinating, interjected General Thrax of the Altarian Defense Force, one of the few military leaders to escape the fall of his homeworld. But our intelligence suggests that Xelar are assembling their entire Grand Armada, over 300 warships, to crush your vessel and then attack Earth directly. Even with your advanced technology, how can one ship stand against such numbers? Riley smiled. Who said anything about one ship? The conference room door slid open, admitting Fleet Admiral Helena Chen. The assembled aliens murmured in surprise at the unannounced arrival of Earth's highest-ranking military officer. Ladies, gentlemen, and honored representatives, Chen began without preamble. The Terran Confederation has authorized full military intervention in the conflict with its Xylar Dominion. As we speak, the First Fleet is deploying through the Sol Quantum Gate. The holographic display shifted to show 12 warships emerging from Earth's defensive perimeter. Though not as large as the Defiance, they clearly shared its design philosophy. The Defiance was our prototype, Chen explained. The lessons we learned in its development have been incorporated into our new Guardian-class destroyers. Each vessel carries the same displacement field technology and gravitational weapons, along with several new systems developed specifically to counter Xylar tactics. The alien representatives stared in open astonishment. For decades, they had believed Earth to be a technological backwater, isolated and irrelevant to galactic affairs. Now, in the span of a few weeks, humanity had revealed itself as perhaps the most advanced military power in the known galaxy. Why? Ambassador Trelvan finally asked. Why would you develop such technologies in secret, only to reveal them now? Admiral Chen's expression hardened. Because we learned long ago that the galaxy is not always a friendly place, Ambassador. When the Alliance rejected our membership 50 years ago, we took it as a valuable lesson. Humanity would need to rely on itself for protection. So we watched, and we learned, and we prepared. Not for conquest, like the Xylar, but for survival. And now, General Thrax pressed. Now we fight, Riley answered simply. Not just for Earth, but for all worlds threatened by the Dominion. 3 days later, at the Strategic Nexus System, a junction point for 7 major hyperspace lanes, the combined forces of humanity and the remaining Galactic Alliance fleets prepared to meet the Xalar Grand Armada. The Nexus's central star provided a dramatic backdrop as the defenders established their positions, fortifying the approach vectors with minefields and automated defense platforms. Aboard the Defiance, now serving as the command vessel for the combined fleet, Captain Riley conducted final briefings with his fellow captains and the Alliance commanders. "The Xalar will expect us to adopt a defensive posture," he explained, indicating the tactical display. "Their standard doctrine calls for overwhelming force applied to the center of our formation, followed by encirclement and systematic elimination of isolated ship groups. Which is precisely why we won't be there when they arrive," added Admiral Chen with a grim smile. The plan they had developed was audacious by any standard. Rather than meeting the numerically superior Xalar fleet in conventional formation, the human vessels would use their advanced quantum drives to execute a series of precisely coordinated strikes from multiple vectors simultaneously. The Alliance vessels, lacking such technology, would provide supporting fire from defensive positions, engaging any Xalar ships that broke through the human attack patterns. "Remember," Riley emphasized to the assembled captains, "our objective is to neutralize their command vessels and force a retreat. The Xalar understand only strength. Once they recognize they can no longer conquer with impunity, they may be willing to negotiate." The tactical officer's voice interrupted the briefing. "Captain, long-range sensors are detecting hyperspace distortions. The Xalar fleet is arriving." Riley exchanged glances with Admiral Chen. "Well, ladies and gentlemen, it seems the enemy is punctual. To your ships and good hunting." As the conference room cleared, Chen remained behind. "Marcus," she said quietly, using his first name for perhaps the first time in their professional relationship, "the President wanted me to remind you that the future of Earth, perhaps of the entire galaxy, depends on what happens in the next few hours." Riley nodded. "No pressure, then." The Admiral's weathered face broke into a brief smile. "None at all." She extended her hand, which Riley clasped firmly. "Give them hell, Captain." The Xalar Grand Armada emerged from hyperspace in perfect attack formation, a testament to their centuries of military discipline. 327 warships, from massive dreadnoughts to nimble destroyers, arrayed themselves in concentric rings around Supreme Overlord Zextral's personal flagship, the inevitable Dominion. The Overlord himself stood on his command deck, surveying the tactical display with satisfaction. "The humans and their allies have chosen to make their stand here," he observed to his commanders. "A strategic location, but it will become their graveyard." "The enemy fleet appears smaller than intelligence suggested," Overlord reported his tactical officer. "Only 37 vessels detected." "They seek to delay the inevitable," Zextral dismissed. "Deploy the fleet in standard conquest formation. Initiate the attack." As the Xalar vessels began their advance, something unexpected happened. The human ships, rather than maintaining their defensive posture, simply vanished from their sensors. "What trickery is this?" the Overlord demanded. "Locate the enemy vessels." Before his officers could respond, alarms blared across the command deck. Human warships had appeared at 12 different positions throughout the Xalar formation, their quantum drives allowing them to bypass the outer defensive screens entirely. Each materialized within optimal firing range of a different command vessel. Aboard the Defiance, which had reappeared less than 10,000 kilometers from the inevitable Dominion itself, Riley gave the order that would echo through galactic history. "All ships, execute Fire Plan Alpha. Target command vessels only." 12 simultaneous gravitational focus beams lanced out from the human warships, each striking a Xalar command ship with pinpoint precision. Not at their hulls or weapon systems, but at specific points identified during the study of the captured vessels, the locations of their quantum entanglement communicators. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Across the Xalar formation, ships suddenly lost contact with their command structure. The intricate dance of their attack pattern faltered as captains found themselves isolated, unable to receive orders or coordinate with their battle groups. Phase 2. Riley ordered calmly. Electromagnetic pulse. The human ships launched specially designed EMP projectiles, each calibrated to the exact frequency Dr. Tanaka had identified as disruptive to Xylar neural networks. As they detonated throughout the enemy formation, Sealer crews found their thought processes momentarily scrambled, their reactions slowed. It was not a lethal attack. The effects would fade within minutes, but in the context of space combat, those minutes were an eternity. Phase 3, Riley continued. Kinetic strikes on primary weapons arrays. The Defiance and its sister ships fired their relativistic missiles, targeting the matter disruption emitters on the largest sailor vessels. The precision strikes disabled the Dominion's most powerful weapons without destroying the ships themselves. From their supporting positions, the Alliance vessels now entered the fray, concentrating fire on those Tyler ships attempting to regroup. Years of humiliation and defeat fueled their attack as they finally saw the invincible conquerors thrown into disarray. On the inevitable Dominion, Supreme Overlord Zex Troll watched in mounting horror as his perfect battle plan collapsed into chaos. His ship rocked violently as another precision strike from the Defiance disabled its main propulsion system. How is this possible? He demanded of no one in particular. How can they coordinate such precise attacks? The answer, had he known it, lay in humanity's unique approach to warfare. While the Xylar relied on rigid hierarchies and predetermined tactics, the human captains operated with a doctrine of disciplined initiative. Each understood the overall strategy but was empowered to adapt their individual tactics as the situation evolved. It was a form of controlled chaos that the rigidly structured Xylar military simply could not comprehend, let alone counter. As the battle entered its third hour, the momentum had clearly shifted. 47 Xylar vessels had been destroyed, and over 100 more disabled or severely damaged. The human fleet had lost only 3 ships, with several others reporting moderate damage. Most significantly, the inevitable Dominion itself lay crippled and vulnerable, its weapons silent and its engines cold. A precision tractor beam from the Defiance held the massive flagship immobile as Captain Riley delivered his ultimatum directly to Supreme Overlord Zex Troll. Your fleet is defeated, Overlord. Your options are simple. Surrender and withdraw from all conquered territories, or be destroyed. Unlike your Dominion, we do not seek to annihilate our enemies. But make no mistake, we will not allow your conquests to continue. For long moments, the Xylar ruler remained silent, his compound eyes fixed on the image of the human captain. In his centuries of life, he had never contemplated defeat, never imagined that the Dominion's advance could be halted, much less reversed. You have won this battle, human, he finally acknowledged, his voice carrying the bitter taste of defeat. But the Dominion spans hundreds of worlds. This is merely one setback. A setback that has revealed the limits of your power, Riley countered. Consider carefully, Overlord. The technologies we've demonstrated today are just the beginning of what humanity can develop. If you force this conflict to continue, we will not show the same restraint in future engagements. In the end, practicality overcame pride. The Supreme Overlord ordered his remaining vessels to stand down. Within hours, representatives from Earth, the Galactic Alliance, and the Xylar Dominion were meeting aboard a neutral vessel to negotiate the terms of an armistice. 2 months later, in the rebuilt council chamber on Cent,